We're going to do an exercise today without weights. We're going to just focus on the quadriceps. This is a sissy squat variation that is extremely stressful on the knee. We're going to address that by having support. So a lot of sissy squats, the way they're taught and the way that the machines and things are set up for them, they involve 3 of the 4 heads of the quadricep, but they don't involve the 4th part muscle of the quadriceps. So the 3 that they involved are the vastus medialis, which is on the inside teardrop, the vastus lateralis, which is the outside teardrop, the vastus intermedius, which is underneath and we can't see it. Those are the 3 that get involved with normal, everyday versions of sissy squats. If we want to involve the rectus femoris, we have to do something different, and here's why. It is because the 3 aforementioned muscles all hook onto the patella, and then they have their origin on the femur itself. Whereas the rectus femoris, it also has its origin on the kneecap, and it starts there, but it runs all the way up to that bone in the front, the ischium, the ilium, the anterior superior spine of the ilium. And that's where it starts. So the rectus femoris is a 2-joint muscle. So it not only flexes, it not only extends the knee, which all the other 3 quadriceps do, it also pikes or folds or flexes the hip. So it extends one joint and it flexes the other. So it's got a sort of special quality to it. The way we're going to deal with it and to get it to work in extension only is we're going to hold the pelvis steady. And that's as simple as it is. So all she's going to do is she's going to get up on her tiptoes and she's going to focus on just the knees, keeping the pelvis in line with the spine. She's going to reach her knees out in front of her body towards the floor and then lift by doing a leg extension up and back. Just go head down, Kim. And then all she's thinking about doing is doing a leg extension. Even though it's a squat, we're not going to involve the hip joint at all. Nothing is happening at that hip joint. So those glutes can't help. The hamstrings can't help. The only muscle group that can do this exercise, rest, is the quadriceps, and all 4 muscles of the quadriceps, because we've really stretched the top portion of the rectus femoris and kept it stretched. So now all it can do is function down at the knee. So I can imagine that about this point in time, somebody would be saying, that's a lot of stress on the knee. And that is correct, that's true. But the way that we get around that and make it not so stressful is that we have a good firm grip on a support here. And she can do a chin-up. So she can distribute the force with all that stress down on the knee between how much weight she wants to give the legs and the quadriceps and how much weight she supports by holding herself with her arms. Eventually, we want to get to a point where we're just kind of holding on and keeping our balance with the upper body. But in the beginning, if the body weight and to strength ratio of the quadriceps alone isn't that great, we're going to have to use quite a bit of support with the arms. And I want her to do that. This is the first time she's ever done this exercise. So go head out. Let's do it again. Let me get my mic cord out of the way. Bring that, now lock that pelvis where it can't move, no hips. The only thing that bends is the knee. And she's got a good, hard, strong grip here. If there's any problem or overstress down here as she's coming up, she can make up for that with the arms. Rest for a second. That was a very nice rep, by the way. So I understand that this puts a lot of shear force on the knee, but so does the leg extension, and so do lots and lots of sports. So if we never, ever, ever stress the joint in a way that it's going to be used out in the real world, like in wrestling, that knee gets bent back, and in dozens of sports, there's plenty of knee flexion. If we don't train that at all, ever in the gym, it's going to be weak. And it's going to be weak when we least want it to be weak, when we're out there doing our thing. So I understand that this purposefully and by design puts a lot of stress on that knee joint in shear forces around that patella. And that's true. We can mitigate that stress because she's not using her whole body weight. She's got plenty of body weight right here. So she can make the motion and over time hold less and less and less until she's just balancing with her upper body. And if you're worried about this, then it shouldn't be an exercise for beginners. You should have done plenty of leg extensions and have good quadriceps strength and good tendon strength in the patellar tendon before you attempt this. But I'm just addressing this simply to add in to a repertoire of someone who wants to do sissy squats. So they've already chosen to put stress on the knee. They want to do leg extensions. Here's a way to do it so that we get all four muscles of the quadricep engaged in a sissy squat, and we take out all of the hip work. If someone has a bad hip or some sort of remedial damage that they have a strain or something in their hip, they can still get plenty of quad work in a squat style with this exercise. We don't have to just say, well, my hip is hurting, I can't do any leg work because I can't squat or leg press. We can do these. Let's do another one. And we can get lots of load on the knees. So bring the knees forward and let this stretch all the way up. And you feel that stretch all the way up. Now keep the hips up and extend like a leg extension. Good. And then down again. And then leg extension out. If it gets too hard, if it feels like there's too much stress on your knees, help yourself out a little bit. I want you to do one rep now where you give yourself nice and slow, a lot of work. Just support yourself with what's needed so that those knees don't feel any excess stretch. You can feel what's going on down there. Keep the hips forward. And just what you need here. Now really work yourself with the leg extension. Slow down a little bit. Let's do another. Really work yourself and limit the amount of help you get. And rest. So I'm not sure if there was any visual difference there, but I'm sure you felt the difference between when you were holding a lot and supporting yourself with your lats and your biceps, and when you were giving that weight to the knee and letting the knee feel it. All right. The biggest mistake here in doing these is to make it like a regular sissy squat. And that would be by taking that hip and letting it flex like it wants to. So let's do it wrong one time. Come on out and come out in a nice stretch. So hold your position. And then as you're coming up, let's let this bend a little bit. Yeah, it's gonna bend. That's too much, but it won't bend that much. But it will bend a little bit. You're gonna want to bend it some. Right, rest. Now when you bent it, could you feel the work be different? Yeah. Okay. So it is. It makes sense that if we change something, we should be able to feel a change. And that's true. And what's happening there is we're slacking. We're making the rectus femoris slack by bending it. When we keep it on the stretch, it doesn't do anything at the hip joint. So that's a really quick and dirty version of this. But I think that it illustrates how to do it. And it's really valuable because you can get people who don't have enough strength to use a machine or a hack sled to do these, or, because the carriage on the hack sled is too much. You can get them started doing a leg extension style sissy squat, and if you have to, you can even help them. I could get behind her and lift her if she couldn't pull enough. I wouldn't think that would be good, but I can give her a little boost. And I often do when clients are doing a really nice job and they fatigue. I'll put my hand under. Let's do one. I'll show you how I spot this. She'll come on out, and I'll just put my hand right under here and I'll lift them up and down. And sometimes when they get so tired, I make them do extras. I really do lift them up and down and make them do extra reps and stuff. So that's a really safe way to spot. You just get under that low back and grab around the waist, and you can pull them up and down quite a bit and then get a few extra reps out. I don't think this is the greatest exercise to go past failure in, but when you have a good athlete who is really strong weight to strength to weight ratio, you can really get away with that. If you're going to start this out, remember to use, let's do one for starters, and I want you to use almost all a rowing motion to do the exercise. Just move your body through the motion, carry as much weight on your arms as you can, and get as little work in your quads as possible. Really, right? And so that's not hard on the knees, is it? Now, let's try to let it shift. Over time, you coax the athlete and the trainee to give more and more weight to the knee. Okay, rest. And that way, I'm going to step in front of you. And that way, there's a gradual, instead of what you would see as gradual increase in weight on a bar, you see a gradual shifting of weight from the arms to the legs. And that works out just fine. So I take the criticism about this putting a lot of shear stress on the patellar tendon. It's true, but lots of other things do that too, especially sports and sports activities. So we can't shy away from that necessarily, but we can train it with a lot of control, slow and steady, and a lot of discipline. And then we can build up tons of strength in it, and it doesn't need to be avoided like the plague. Shear force on the patella is not something that we always have to avoid as coaches. It's a good idea to start that way, but when the athlete is ready and when you deem it necessary for your sport or for your development, you can start to use these potentially if you'd like to. There's lots of other things you can do. Good old leg extensions never failed anybody. But again, they're not going to hit the rectus femoris like this will because of the positioning. So I hope you try this a little bit. And I want to encourage you to be careful and diligent and disciplined and controlled when you do. And I hope it works out for you. Thanks for listening.